Alrighty, folks, it is time for the Grand Prix Darkhand Enterprises Brawl GP Finals. We've got two really good players here, PTM versus DrChipmunk. One of the things that I mentioned towards the end of the last round that I played is that this is going to be a nice new versus old showdown here. One thing I did not know is that this is also kind of a designer showdown. Obviously, DrChipmunk is the designer of Errors in the Weft, which is where her chosen Brawl commander comes from. But what I did not know is that Efimia of the Horse from Theros Age of Tracks, designed by Zangi, is actually a design seed pitched by PTM. So that is a really clean, designer showdown in that regard as well, which can be pretty exciting. Mono red versus red green. There's going to be a lot of burn, a lot of pain happening throughout this match. I will say, as we get into all of this, these are pre-recorded replays. At least as far as the matches go, my reactions will be to them live. I know the results of this match, but I do not know how we get to those results. So my reactions to gameplay patterns and decisions will be as they come. But before we dive into all of that, I figure we should talk about deck lists and as always, with us being this close towards the end of the season, the most recent set review is linked in the description below, and there should be a little info card on the screen right now. Exalts of Twiltree is the newest set joining the field, replacing Theros Age of Tracks, which is the home to cards like Efimia of the Horse, which you see on screen now. Theros Age of Tracks designed by Zangi, of course, and Exalts of Twiltree also designed by Zangi. So we may be losing Theros Age of Tracks, but we're keeping a Zangi set in the field by any means necessary. So highly recommend you give that video a watch. The patch notes should be right around the corner as of recording and hopefully uploading. It is the 28th of August. So I know there have been murmurs about the patch notes coming a bit early, but even if they don't, rotation is next Monday, so we only have a little bit of time to wait before we can get those patch notes and check out what has changed in Exalts of Twiltree. So again, link in the description below. Check out the set review. It's a long one. I don't blame you for watching it in parts and just kind of skipping around as you need to, but I do highly recommend you watch the whole thing. I put in a lot of work into those. So let's talk about the matchup here. PTM, as I mentioned, on Efimia of the Horse is mono red aggro. If you want a good look at how well this deck plays, I highly recommend you check out the last round of my GP run. I was up against PTM, and little spoilers for that. PTM knocked me out of the semifinals. Was really, really hard fought match. Some things just didn't quite go right for me, and some things did go pretty well for PTM, but PTM also just navigated that matchup really well. So we won't have to toggle to sideboards here, thankfully. Brawl is a sideboardless format. So Efimia always going to be in the command zone, 1 mana, 1/1 with haste. Whenever you get a heroic trigger, so you cast a spell that targets Efimia, you get a 1/1 human if it's the first time that ability is resolved, a +1/+0 and haste buff to all of your creatures the second time, and a menace buff to all of your creatures the third time. Fun fact, this card used to have ward pay to life. If I'm remembering correctly. This card used to be even better than it was, but it is still a very good card. One of the best one-drops that Red has available to it in the format right now, at least up until Monday. 22 lands here with one Grip Festivarium as the Errors in the Weft leveling land is a pretty good one. Just a good mana outlet as you get into the later portions of the game, and then 21 mountains otherwise. We got a bunch of burn spells across the burn spells and pump spells across the instants and sorceries. We've got Face of Animosity, Momentous Charge, Reply to the Call, Static Augment, Go for Gold for like instant speed pump spells, Bleeding Out, High Voltage and Shock for instant speed burn, Firebolt, Terminal Impact, Frag for more sorcery speed burn, as well as Conscript, Hone Claws, and Erupt for sorcery speed heroic triggers. Worth noting, Conscript can target your own creatures, so you can target Efimia and then a creature with mana value 3 or less from the opponent to steal the opposing creature while getting an Efimia trigger, which is really nice. You could also use this to give one of your creatures haste. So you could take an opposing blocker out of the way while giving your creature haste, which is really cool. And then Igneous Visions is a bit of card selection, or card draw, rather. Couple enchantments to put some stats on the board or get some value. Sparks of Revolution. I will say in advance, I'm so sorry that this is going to be kind of janky. There's some bugs with uh, the like split card view, and you're not going to be able to see the full split card here on any of these. And like if I hover over it in a weird way, it kind of like does a janky thing here where it like pops out the regular full front side card image as well. It just becomes this really hard to navigate thing. So you're not going to be able to see the full split card here, but Sparks of Revolution puts a 1/1 into play, and if you flip it, whenever you attack, you get another 1/1 that's tapped and attacking, which is really good for just maintaining board pressure. Thrice Blessed Boon, another good heroic trigger. You can tap Efimia to play this on turn 1 while playing Efimia. Get a 2/1 menace creature out of the equation plus a 1/1 human token. Really, really good deal. Flags on High for some more bodies. Shigani Manor Burns for some persistent value. Panic as just a nice big removal spell with a 4/4 engine stapled onto it. And Gift of Inspiration, card draw, and token generation over time. Beyond that, we've got 2 Planeswalkers, Koyos, Spear of Karda, and Jericho, Ageless Wanderer, both pretty good top-end threats. And then this is not a very low... Like, there's a lot of low-curve stuff going on here, but this deck isn't all in on the aggro plan. We've got stuff like Ironcliff Blaster, Red Hot Rider, Hero in the Making, and Calamity Cat as the other 1-drops. You don't really need a ton with Efimia already in the command zone, but it is good to have other 1-drops, especially really good aggressive ones like Calamity Cat. You get really, really strong 2-drops like Temperamental Chick, 2/2 for 2 that deals 1 to a creature when it attacks with one other creature, and if it then gets to deal combat damage to a player, it becomes a 5/4 with first strike that always pings something when it attacks, and if it attacked with one other creature, it gets to ping something 3 times instead. Really, really strong board control card if you can get that Amity trigger online. Solid Smog, really, really dangerous attacker, 2/1 with haste. And then if it gets that Amity trigger off, you can pay a red to flip it into a 3/3 with Menace, that from there has an Amity trigger to pay 1 and a red to give itself and the other creature it's attacking with +2 power for the turn. We've also got Cash Thrasher, really good aggressive tool that generates value over time, and Savvy Smith, another good Spellslinger tool. 15 instant and sorceries, really reliable to trigger Savvy Smith when you need to. Can draw you cards, give you mana, make some bodies, all good things. At 3-drop, we've got Brass Oracle, another good instant and sorcery synergy card. Competitive Hedonist, just a really good mana sink like Griff Festivarium. Level up cards that are relatively playable are going to be good at sinking in extra mana, and this one just gets to fight the board really well once you level it up once or twice. Then Audacious Rough Rider, some more card selection while just being a solid body, and Fabricated Anomaly, another card selection tool that just lets you scale up your board, exile single cards from your graveyard to make your 1/1s into 2/2s. Just really, really efficient at amplifying the amount of pressure you're dealing. And then beyond the 3-drop slot, there's a couple odd ones. Ardor, Forefront of Freedom, 4-drop that just kind of lets your tokens spiral out of control. And I think... Eviva is the only other creature above 3 mana. 5/5 for 5 that can't be countered, and just spits out 2/2s that impulse draw when they hit the opponent. So lots of really good mid-rangey, like medium or big red cards. Not even a lot, just like a couple of the best medium or big red cards, flanked by a lot of cards that do a lot of good work with Efimia and the general aggro plan. So you have the aggression backed up by some really, really strong sustain. So PTM is up against DrChipmunk on the Weftheart. Now, Chip is the 2-time GP winner so far this season. Chip is in this matchup not only to try and win with her own Planeswalker design, but it is also a matter of Chip trying to go for the win here to be the first player to ever get 3 GP wins in a row. We went at the start of this year with having never had anyone get 2 wins in a row. Then we had Philippe Sanner get it in February and March. We had Chip win in April. I won in May, and then Chip has one in June and July as well. So not only is Chip going for the 3 in a row, Chip is looking to have 4 of the 12 tournaments that you can compete in to qualify for Worlds locked down just by her, if she wins this match. So that is a huge accolade that Chip is running for here. So Weftheart is a red-green enchantment mid-range toolbox style commander. The less important of the two modes here for this 4 mana 5 loyalty planeswalker is that you can make a save subroutine enchantment token. Whenever it runs, you can impulse draw the top. You have to impulse draw the top card of your library, and you can play it that turn. Subroutines, for those unfamiliar, are you get 3 programs, and you can insert your subroutine into one of those programs of your choice. At your first main phase after your draw step, much like when sagas happen, you run all of your subroutines in your next program. So it goes A, B, C. You can put them in A, and then A will run the next turn, or you can put them in B to run them in 2 turns, C to run them in 3, and then every 3 turns it resets and goes back to the start. But the more important thing for Weftheart here is really just that second ability, -1, sacrifice an enchantment. If you do, search your library for an enchantment card with mana value equal to 1 plus the sacrificed enchantment's mana value, put it onto the battlefield, then shuffle. This is an enchantment birthing pod. You can flip a good value, enter the battlefield, trigger enchantment into something more impactful higher up on the curve. And while we have Theros Age of Tracks, we do have some pretty good enchantment creatures to flip into as well. So let's talk about things in pretty much the same order as last time. Let's go lands and work our way left. 6 forests, 10 mountains, and a bunch of duels. We also have Grip Festivarium here as well. This is a deck that skews heavier into red than green by account of the Weftheart costing double red and single green to cast. So, higher density of red sources than green sources. All some pretty good mana tools here. Some utility in stuff like Footloose Soul Space, which can surveil 1 and is also a typed dual land. Nessian Woods is just a big body later on. Ardent Rise, which can buff a creature and have it shoot an opposing creature for its power if you can discard it. Meandering Path is just a early untapped land that can cycle later on, and then some more fetches and Urban Jungle. For the sorceries, we've got Journey Begins as some card selection, Firebolt as good burn spell, Harvest Time to sort of serve as a 26th land here, as well as something that could be discarded if need be and used to get a land later on. Igneous Visions, another as before, just good card selection tool, card advantage tool. Frag, just good removal. Abominable Avalanche, really good. Split up removal, getting to deal 3 damage divided as you please. And then it can be a 3/3 later on as you spend 5 or more mana. You get to exile it from your graveyard and make a 3/3 that way. And then Terminal Impact, once again, just good. Funnel a bunch of mana into it to kill the opponent, or pay exactly as much mana as a creature's toughness to kill it. 7 enchantments here. Magma Flow is another burn spell. Flags on High comes up the board. Shigane Manor Burns, once again, just good long-term value. Crumbling Tower can be good card advantage as well. Landfall Impulse draws, and you can sacrifice it to shoot the opponent for the number of cards currently exiled with Crumbling Tower, so cards you lose don't just become worthless. Panic, once again, just good removal spell that makes 4/4s over time. God Divided is a good artifact check. Mops up a bunch of artifact tokens, as well as any tangible artifacts with total mana value 4 or less, and then you can rummage away some cards and potentially fling something. And Rebuilding of Londell, which is just like a good go wide, put a lot of trinkets into play card. You make a 1/1 citizen, treasure, or a weapon at your upkeep, and if you have 12 or more permanents, you get to make all 3 instead. There's also Root Fossil, good ramp tool with a bit of value in the graveyard later. You can sacrifice it, surveil 3, put a land from among those cards that you put into your graveyard onto the battlefield tapped, and then you can pay 2 and a green while you have 7 or more cards in your graveyard to surface it as Reborn Lily, which does that same sacrifice ability on attack instead as a 2/4. There's also Map Token, just good 1 mana artifact enchantment subroutine. I think the primary reason for Map here is that it is something that can be used as just like a Weftheart tool to pod up into a 2-drop like Shigani Manor Burns. But it is also just something that you could have run and pay some mana to fix your colors and draw a card. And then Electronic Countermeasures is the only instant here to deal 5 to a creature or planeswalker, and then if you have a permanent with mana value 4 or greater, you get to exile cards equal to the excess damage, and can play one of those cards until your next end step. Koyos is here in the Planeswalker slot for this deck as well, and then lots of familiar faces and some more unfamiliar, just good ramp tools. We've got Tough Nut, can cast cards from anywhere other than your hand, so can cast your commander from the command zone, can cast cards you impulse draw with the subroutine tokens or from other sources. We have Cash Thrasher once again as just good aggro or aggressive tool that can kind of push card advantage over the long term. Masksmith, just good check for artifacts, enchantments, and cards in graveyards while being a 2-mana 3/2. Menelaya can be good board protection. It's an enchantment you can search up or sacrifice with Weftheart. Morbid Bloomer, good recursion value, 2-mana 3/1 with Ward 1, and whenever it deals combat damage, you can pay 1 to return a permanent from your graveyard to your hand. Star-Studded Sagittar is part of a ramp package, 2-mana 2/2 with Reach. When it hits a player, you can bless a land, giving it an aura with tap, add green. Stockbroker is another mana dork. It has a +1/+1 counters clause, but it's mostly just really good for being a 2-mana 1/3 that fixes your colors. Although I will say that +1/+1 counters clause can come up, and we might see it here. I can't guarantee, but I think it's pretty good. Fabricated Anomaly, once again, just good card selection and board value, like pressure amplification. Estrathian Gentrifiers can go find your utility lands in place of your basics, and grows in power depending on how many unique land names you have. Thraxes, Sire of Dragons, is one of the big pod targets. 5-mana 5/5 flying enchantment creature dragon with haste. Makes all instant and sorcery spells cost 2 less to cast, not just your own. And whenever an opponent casts their second spell each turn, you create a 5/5 red dragon with flying. So the instant and sorcery spells cost reduction clause can actually just result in the opponent playing right into Thraxes' trigger to give you some 5/5s. Warden of Tremors, really, really strong top-end tool, 6-mana 7/6 that lets you play 2 additional lands each turn, makes your first spell each turn cost a red and a green less to cast, and then has a landfall trigger to exile the top 3 cards of your library, and you can play those cards as long as you have Warden of Tremors. There's Dryad the Keen-Eyed, another land fetch, goes and finds a basic forest, and if your devotion to green is 3 or greater, you get to put it into play tapped instead. Spike Mane Lion, 2-mana 3/3, just good at sitting on the board. When it dies, you can bless a creature with Spike Mane Cloak, which gives it a Valiance trigger, not necessarily heroic, because it's target spell or ability to put a +1/+1 counter on the enchanted creature and have it deal 1 damage to each opponent, though only twice each turn, tops. Red Hot Rider, once again, just good little card advantage tool once you have something bigger in play. Viviva Grip Exec, once again, just good inevitability engine, and then Sunsoaker as one last mana dork. So that was a pretty comprehensive breakdown of both of these decks, at least in terms of card selections, but wanted to make sure that I was at least thorough with all of these, so that way we could know what we're getting into, because we're not going to be able to toggle to this again for sideboards. So let's get into the first game here. I have the replay pulled up already, and let's see how this all goes. I'm going to change this around a little bit, because we're going to want to be able to see these cards. Looks like, yeah, it takes a sec for the match to start, because Chipmunk also recorded this match. That link will be in the description as well as on a time card, or on an info card as well, right around now. And I'll also have it as the video on the end card, recommended. So players getting their battlefield set up. Let's see what these opening hands look like. We can actually pause here for a second. We have Chip here with Nessian Woods, Mountain. Shigani Manor Burns, Flags on High, Igneous Visions, and Thraxes, Sire of Dragons, versus PTM drawing 5 Mountains, Momentous Charge, Competitive Hedonist. I have to imagine PTM mulligans this, but I could see Chip keeping her hand. Turn 2 Shigani Manor Burns gets you a turn 3 Weftheart because it makes a treasure the turn it enters. And then you can have Weftheart flip Shigani Manor Burns into a 3-mana enchantment. So you can flip it into a Fabricated Anomaly, or you could just kind of take things slower and develop Flags on High to come up the board. I will note PTM is on the play in this matchup. PTM is the higher seed as a player who went undefeated in the Swiss rounds. So have to imagine PTM is going to be on the play here. We do see that PTM took a free mull and Chipmunk kept her hand. So PTM on 3 lands, Sparks of Revolution, Face of Animosity, Hone Claws, and Jericho, Ageless Wanderer. All pretty good cards. I have to imagine Sparks or Efimia comes down here. It's going to be Efimia on turn 1. That makes sense. Kind of conserve the information in hand. And with this being a 25 life total format, Red has a little bit of a harder time punching through those extra 5 points of health. Masksmith is the draw for Chipmunk. Have to assume it's just going to be Nessian Woods and pass, and that is indeed what we see here. So let's hop forward a little bit. Looks like Mountain was the draw for PTM here. And it's going to be Sparks of a Revolution, and I assume Hone Claws or Face of Animosity. It's got to be one. I assume it's going to be Face of Animosity here, actually, just for the sake of getting the source you control dealt 3 or more damage this turn clause checked off. But we'll see what PTM ends up going for. This is exactly the scenario that you, as the slower player, don't want to see going on here, with Red just kind of getting to tear out the gate with a lot of cheap, efficient tools. Going right into combat tells me that it wouldn't be the Hone Claws, and it is in fact Face of Animosity. So I think he's going to make a 1/1 for getting that heroic trigger, and then get +2/+0 trample and a +1/+1 counter. So hitting for 5, checking off the second condition of Sparks of Revolution, which PTM does clarify. And then Efimia is going to be a 2/2 permanently now. Chip untaps, draws Astrathian Gentrifiers. I think Shigani Manor Burns would be the value play to try and tee up Weftheart, but I think in this position, your opponent already has dealt 6 to you. You're staring down 4 more. Opponent has 4 cards in hand still. And unless you can kill one of their creatures before they attack, Sparks of Revolution is going to flip next turn. I think you gotta Flags on High here if you're Chipmunk. SMB is your only way to guarantee Weftheart right now, because you only have 3 lands, and so without a 4th land, you do need that treasure token to flip into Weftheart. But I'm not even sure what Weftheart would be podding into right now to kind of recover the board. You would really want to pod 4-drop into Thraxes to kind of really bounce back on the board in a meaningful way. But that's just not where we see she is at here. It does, in fact, go with the Flags on High. Ship on over to the opponent. Oh, did I break the replay? It looks like I did. Can I get this to cooperate? Let's slow things down here. There we go. Sorry, I'm not used to using the replay function. We do see Hone Claws come down on Efimia here. Will discard a card. So Efimia gains whenever it hits a player, you draw a card, and then it also just draws a card from Hone Claws happening. Drew Mountain and Red Hot Rider off of that. And pitched a Mountains, so seen a lot of Mountains already. Chip plays Astrathian Gentrifiers, gets rid of the... Okay, I think I'm still on the fast forward mode. I'm going to try and see if I can get that to slow down. What is happening? Astrathian Gentrifier sacrifices a mountain to go find Temple of Abandon, scries to the bottom. Putting God Divided to the bottom makes sense. And it looks like it was double block with the soldier tokens to kill Efimia there, which was a pretty reasonable play, especially with Hone Claws being teed up there. Let's see if I can get this to stop being fast forwarded. Koyos is the draw, pretty solid, but with no other red devotion, doesn't get any additional loyalty because Freedom does not contribute devotion on its backside. I could see it just being like Jericho Red Hot Rider here, and then hold Koyos for next turn. But I could also see, Koyos here -3, shoot Istrathian Gentrifiers for 4. That would be pretty good just to clear that out of the way, and then you get to swing and make 4 1/1s. I will say I also said something about Thraxes being the desired target off of Weftheart to kind of stabilize the board, but Thraxes is in hand. We do see that exact thing happening. Koyos come down, shoot out the Istrathian Gentrifiers to clear the way, and that's going to be a swing for 4, courtesy of Freedom. So put Chipmunk to 13, 2 cards to PTM versus Chipmunk's 5. But serious life lead from PTM. Chipmunk already almost down to half health, pretty much. Footloose Soul Space is the draw, so Scryed past God Divided to get to that. Yeah, and this is just a rough position to be in. You can Mask Smith the Koyos, but at this point, Koyos has done its damage. The 3/2 body is just more impactful on the board. Did get a slight clarification from Zangi that it does make a soldier and not a human. Likely to not be too important, but good to represent the board accurately. Yeah, this is just an awkward spot for Chip, no matter how you slice it. I would kind of want to run out the Soul Space here just for the sake of developing Thraxes next turn, and you would want the untapped land on 5 for that. But then you really are locking yourself into Mask Smith just sitting in play, watching the opponent beat you up. Could Shigani Manor Burns here, but again, like you're at 13. Does go for the Weftheart, so is presumably going to be potting away Flags on High for a 3-drop. Is Fabricated Anomaly, right? Fabricated Anomaly just loot away the Igneous Visions. Yeah. Anomaly loots away Igneous Visions most likely here. And gonna try and find something to get out of this. So doesn't have to do that immediately. This will just stick around, so can do that during PTM's turn. Potentially holding onto the Igneous Visions if something on PTM's turn informs the puzzle box activation. PTM will draw a Conscript. Goodness gracious, that is a draw and a half there. Oh. Because now PTM can Conscript Fabricated Anomaly, swing with everything, use Fabricated Anomaly, put +1/+1 counters on all 4 of the tokens here by exiling the 4 cards in the graveyard. I just realized Efimia went to the graveyard and not the command zone. Wow. So in a way, like PTM put Efimia in the graveyard, accounting for this scenario. I have to imagine that might have been a mistake, but like it'll pay off here because now you can exile Efimia with Fabricated Anomaly, keep a card in your graveyard in case you can find your own, and actually build your way up to a bigger board with still keeping some resources in the graveyard. Makes a can be cast from exile token. I assume this is going to be for Koyos' uptick. I have to imagine this is going to be a Koyos uptick to take a peek at another card. Although actually, oh no, PTM is lethal here. So PTM has lethal. It's Conscript the Fabricated Anomaly to get it out of the way. You can Red Hot Rider Conscript. So you can Red Hot Rider Conscript the Rider and Fabricated Anomaly. Actually, it doesn't really matter if you hit the Rider because you're giving the Anomaly haste here. And then you swing Sorry, you Koios -1, targeting one of the tokens. It gains haste until end of turn. In fact, that might be why you Red Hot Rider, is so that way you can have a Rider token and get a second card exiled with it. And then you have these 4 1/1s plus a fifth 1/1, plus Fabricated Anomaly. You swing with all of those, put counters on all 5 1/1s by exiling 5 of the 6 cards in your graveyard between Conscript, Koios, and the 4 already there. That's 12 damage plus 1 from Freedom. So that's lethal in PTM's hand. Does PTM see it, is the question. PTM is a very, very skilled, nuanced mono red player. I have to imagine PTM's figuring out right now if there is a line here. PTM says okay in the chat, so I think PTM sees it. Goes for the -1. Oh, PTM sees it indeed. Doesn't even go for the Red Hot Rider. No need to. This is just lethal every time. Why overcomplicate things? Conscript, steal the anomaly. Give it here. And even if Efimia hadn't gone to the graveyard, if Efimia had gone to the command zone, still perfect lethal, because 5 cards in graveyard with Efimia in command zone, and that's exactly as many as you need for Fabricated Anomaly to do work here. Swing with everything, eat 5 cards in graveyard, and Freedom. That's 13 damage, and that is PTM taken home game 1 here. That is a really clean Chipmunk asking me or Weftheart. PTM does clarify. And then, yeah, that is 13 exactly. Really, really, really skilled play here. I will admit I'd seen something about the lethal here being really, really clever, and I can see how. That is a really cool lethal line, using Koios -1 to copy a 1/1 token. It's so silly. Oh, exiles Efimia just for the sake of putting the counter on Fabricated Anomaly instead. That's fair enough. And we get the GGs from Chipmunk. So that is the end of game 1. Let me pull up the next replay real quick. Alrighty, game 2 here. Chip is going to be on the play here. Players getting their thing set up. Let's see if I can fast forward through these early steps. Let's let the hands come down here. Missed that first hand. Let's see if I can rewind a little bit. So Chip versus PTM here. We've got Chip on Mountain, Grip Festivarium, and 3 green cards. Yeah, I see why that was a mull. Also, I'm going to have to manually do this every time. Oh well. We figure these things out as we go. So yeah, I can see why Chip wanted to mull this hand. This is a really awkward hand. PTM, for his part, on 4 mountains, Firebolt, Hone Claws, Brass Oracle. I don't know if I'm crazy about this. Like, Hone Claws does let you fine-tune this a bit, but on the draw, it's going to be a lot harder for Efimia to connect than on the play. At least harder for Efimia to connect turn after turn, so Hone Claws becomes less reliable. Though Firebolt can clear the way for Efimia, it just means this Brass Oracle looks particularly weak after the fact. So we do see... Oh, let's... I'm going to try and get it to not fast forward anymore. Chip keeping... Or not keeping, mulliganing to Primal Fissure, Footloose Soul Space, Map, Firebolt, Frag, Avalanche, Viviva. This is tempting, because you could use Map and kind of flip it into a free cantrip. Or not a free cantrip, but you could spend 1 mana to cantrip it the following turn. Problem is, Footloose Soul Space probably just comes down on turn 1, and so then you have Primal Fissure on turn 2, just kind of awkward. PTM thinking on their hand. I think PTM could be safe to mulligan here. I think this hand's really awkward. Hone Claws can dig you out of it, but that is assuming that your opponent doesn't have removal for Efimia. And if Efimia gets picked off, then you're kind of just an awkward spot. PTM will keep here. So hoping Hone Claws can find a way out of this kind of awkward hand. Chip will also keep 7, taking the risk. So we'll see the Soul Space on 1. not too shocking here. Bleeding Out is the draw for PTM, so plenty of removal between Bleeding Out and Firebolt, but needs to have some pressure. So Efimia will come down, swing for one, as she is wont to do. Chip will draw Morbid Bloomer. Can be pretty good to dig out of this with just picking up Primal Fissure every turn. Though I imagine you still do want to find some land drops here. Will Crack, go find a mountain. I assume Firebolt Efimia and develop the map here. That is in fact what's going to happen here. Firebolt picks off Efimia. Efimia goes to Graveyard. I wonder why PTM is doing that. Is PTM forgetting to put Efimia in the command zone? Because that's twice now that PTM has put Efimia in... Oh, PTM does catch it this time. PTM does put Efimia in the command zone. And then the map does go into program A so it can run next turn. PTM does say, whoops, habit. So yeah, the last game, Efimia going to Graveyard was not intentional. PTM kind of lucked out that it didn't matter. Fifth mountain on the draw for PTM here. And then just has to pass. Bleeding Out's not even going to be a great check here because if Chip goes for Morbid Bloomer, the Ward 1 on Bloomer protects it from Bleeding Out. Draws the land, so doesn't even necessarily need the map, but will just sacrifice it for free. Draws a second land, so Forest and Mountain now in hand. And suddenly that hand has fully recovered from the awkward draw here. Morbid Bloomer comes down, and yeah, can't get blood out here. If it trades with something, you can pay one and rebuy the map or rebuy Primal Fissure. Koyos is the draw for PTM. We saw how good Koyos could be last game. But I imagine it might just be Brass Oracle over Efimia, because why trade Efimia into Morbid Bloomer just to let them rebuy a card? Going for Brass Oracle at least lets you play like Bleeding Out Firebolt next turn. For some good value, or more realistically, lets you get got by Frag or Abominable Avalanche, but then at least it's hitting a 2/2 instead of an Efimia, making you have to pay 5 for Efimia on a future turn. We will see, looks like Brass Oracle here, 3 mana. Does indeed play the Brass Oracle. So on Chip's side of things, I assume it's just going to be... swing Morbid Bloomer, pay 1, rebuy Primal Fissure, and either frag the Brass Oracle, play the Primal Fissure, or Abominable Avalanche the Oracle, play an untapped land. I think either way I'm pretty happy with that if I'm Chip here. Because you now have the 5th land for Eviviva. In fact, with the 5th land off of Eviviva, I'm not even sure you want to grab Primal Fissure. I think you want map here. So maybe you go like Mountain, frag Brass Oracle, swing... Oh, no, it is going to be Abominable Avalanche. So Avalanche will pick off Brass Oracle, deal 1 to PTM, and then Morbid Bloomer is going to get to swing in here and rebuy something. So PTM down to 21. Let's see. Oh, yep. Chip does stop in the combat damage step to pay 1. Is going to rebuy the map instead of Primal Fissure. I think that is a pretty reasonable line here. And now Eviviva looking really good here, both as a 5-mana 5/5 that comes up the board, as well as something that triggers Abominable Avalanche here to make a 3/3 Yeti token. So that's going to be 10/10 worth of stats between the 5/5 body, the 2/2 token, and the 3/3 trampling token out of the graveyard. We see Efimia come down here alongside Hone Claws, so PTM is going to get to dig out of this a little bit. Assume pitching a mountain, and that is indeed what happens. Here in the making is the draw off of this. We get to see the human token made, and then Efimia is going to hit Chip down to 23, draw another card. Start refreshing this hand. Competitive Hedonist. Actually a little awkward to pitch that mountain drawing Competitive Hedonist, because Hedonist wants you to have 6 mana if you're drawing it later. So you can play it and immediately level it up to a 4/4 that shocks something when it attacks. But PTM just going to pass from there. Not a high impact turn 4, which is exactly what you want to see if you are in Chipmunk's position. Draws the next mountain and is going to go for Eviviva. So that is going to be 10/10 stats on the board. No need to swing in Bloomer. It would just die to the human, and that's not worthwhile. Face of Animosity is the draw for PTM. Could be pretty solid, but it's just a little awkward right now. I think if I'm PTM, I'm entertaining Firebolt bleeding out kill of Eviva. But the only problem with that is that if you kill Eviva, you have to deal with the Morbid Bloomer, so that way it doesn't get picked back up, because the 6th land means Morbid Bloomer plus Eviva, just looping it. So you need to answer the Bloomer as well as this 5/5 Titan making 2/2s every turn. Real awkward spot to be in. Could try and swing with Efimia and set up the Face of Animosity here just to try and fish for a favorable block. Though if the warrior token here blocks, that's just really devastating. I think any other block here, you're pretty happy to trade Face of Animosity and Efimia for like the Yeti. Especially happy to just deal a bunch of damage to Eviva. Actually, Koyo's going to come down here and probably just -3 on Eviva. No, upticks. Interesting. Top 3 cards of your library, you may cast one of them. Oh, no, enters with 5 counters. Sorry. So it is going to kill Efimia here. Or sorry, kill Eviva here. But I don't know if that's a great line here, because again, Morbid Bloomer's just going to rebuy it, and one more land means Eviva just comes right back down, and you just spent a really big removal spell on that. If you had one more land, I would be really keen about that, because then you could Firebolt the Morbid Bloomer and pay the ward cost. But without that, I don't know if I love this position. Goes for Firebolt on the Warrior token instead. So says like, hey, you're welcome to rebuy Viviva, but it's going to cost your Bloomer to do so. Fair enough. Mask Smith is the draw for Chipmunk here. Could use that to kill the Koyos, but probably just swings the Yeti and the Bloomer at Koyos to clear it off in that way. Trades with the human token, but gets in for 3 on Koyos nonetheless. And then Mask Smith is saved as just a 3/2 for the board that can check something else that goes down. Playing the map token. Wow. So going to go for the Weftheart instead here. Flip this map token into a 2-drop. Shigani Mana Burns? Or is something else cooking here? It's Menelaya. Oh, yeah, Menelaya put counters on Morbid Bloomer, Green Yeti. So if you want to kill Bloomer here, you need to block with both and then hope that Chip prioritizes. Oh, not even going to swing with the Bloomer. Just going Yeti at Koyos, because double block doesn't save Koyos. I feel like you could get in with the Bloomer here. Because, like, you get in with Bloomer. If your opponent double blocks, I think you're fine not rebuying a card with this to instead use Menelaya to tap it, give it indestructible, and kill both of these creatures. But Chip deciding to hold back instead, save the blocker, which I think is fair in its own right. We see Mountain drawn and played for PTM. Does put to the 6 land count for Competitive Hedonist, but might just be a little too late, because shooting the Morbid Bloomer would cost 1 mana, and you have to shoot the Morbid Bloomer to swing in with the Competitive Hedonist as a 4/4, because that is just going to get blocked and traded with. I guess there is one line that you could take here, which is Hedonist, level up, swing, shoot Menelaya. Force the question of, is Morbid Bloomer going to block because there will no longer be an option to level it up. Wow, going for Bleeding Out on Menelaya. I guess that's fair. That's fine, because you do want to take away the ability to gain Indestructible. Because like going for the Morbid Bloomer, not as good in that regard. And then Chip does take 2. I don't know. I feel like maybe Hedonist just trying to trade with, like, take off Menelaya and then either trade with Bloomer or kill Weftheart was probably just a better line there. Because either Bloomer sticks around on board but doesn't trade with Hedonist, or you send Hedonist at Weftheart, kill Weftheart and Menelaya. Wow, swinging just Efimia. At Weftheart, interesting. Okay. And this Hedonist looking a little more awkward with Frag in hand. Which is another reason why I feel like, you know your opponent's going to be on a slower plan that's likely going to be packing some extra removal. I feel like you just got to have what you can to answer it right away. So, of course, the risk here is that Efimia could blow out Morbid Bloomer, but then you are at least trading for whatever cards in your opponent's hand, plus you're rebuying a card from your graveyard, and that is going to be Face of Animosity coming down here to do exactly that. So I think that's a pretty good equation, or a pretty good exchange here if I'm Chipmunk. Because you trade your Bloomer for a second copy of a Viveva effectively, as well as Face of Animosity and Morbid and Efimia at the cost of 2 loyalty counters on Weftheart. PTM does ship Efimia back to the graveyard, missing it again. And Chip even draws the 7th land, so can go with Viveva plus Frag the Hedonist. Makes a save token off of Weftheart here. I assume just in program A. I mean, yeah, Frag Hedonist, develop a Viveva, bash for 4. The opponent putting Commander in the graveyard again. It's going to be a real liability here. And yeah, PTM's not going to be chump blocking this, so yeah, this is Chip's game to win. I can't imagine 7th land. Yeah, I can't imagine PTM's going to be able to really recover this super stably. Even with Efimia in the command zone, I'm not sure this is a really great position to be in, because you could really it's a question of, are you playing Efimia or flashing back Firebolt? But PTM's just going to call it. Not much else to do there. Pretty overwhelmed on resources by Chipmunk here. So let's launch into game 3 now. Alrighty. Game 3, and this one's for all the marbles. See how hands shape up here in these opening turns. So as players are getting their hands drawn, once again, I will remind you all that we have the next set review linked in the description below, as well as Chipmunk's perspective on this match linked below. So if you want to see how Chip has rationalized play patterns throughout this match, feel free to give that video a watch. Chip always has some good insight as she makes her plays. So initial opening hands here, PTM on the play, 4 lands, Ironcliff Blaster, Temperamental Chick, Sparks of Revolution. That's a really solid aggressive start. Chick alone is just so much danger if you can't pick it off. And then Blaster, Sparks of Revolution are pretty good 1-drops. The concern here is just that if you don't draw well after this opening hand, you do fizzle out of... you fizzle out really quickly. So got to be prepared to push the damage fast in order for this to do some work. On Chip's side of things, Footloose Soul Space once more alongside Mountain, Sunsoaker, and Sagittar for some mana advantage. Let's make the card viewer a little bigger here. As well as Magma Flow and Menelaya. So Menelaya to protect the board, make Sagittar hit harder, and then Magma Flow able to pick off something problematic like that Temperamental Chick. We'll see how folks keep here. If either of them keep, I could see PTM mulliganing this hand. I think Chip is pretty comfy with what they've got. Looks like PTM will, in fact, mulligan. and Chipmunk is going to keep 7. So Mountain, 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 reply to the call, Erupt, Sparks, and Solid Smog. I mean, Sparks, Smog, and 2 spells to target Efimia is pretty good. So PTM is going to keep this second 7. I imagine it's once again just going to be Efimia coming down here. Develops the pressure there. There is some tension between Solid Smog and Sparks of Revolution, because Sparks wants you to swing 3 things to get the first condition met, but Solid Smog really wants to be swinging by just itself and one other creature. So awkward tension there on those 2 cards. But it's a tension you kind of just got to live with in most cases. We do see PTM kind of tanking on the play here. Let's kind of fast forward a little bit. It does end up being Efimia on turn 1 again. 3 for 3 on the turn 1 Efimia. Chip drawing Crumbling Tower, going for the Soul Space. Super simple, super sweet. PTM draws Mountain, plays Mountain. And lots of choices here. Could go for Erupt, reply to the call. Goes for the Solid Smog, just kind of pushing more damage here on this turn 2. I think it's fine to save the Erupt and the reply to the call for a turn when Sparks is like already flipped, or even just like when you have more bodies on board, so you can maximize the Anthem effect of Efimia. Chip draws Fabricated Anomaly. Lots of choices to make here. Could go for Star-Studded Sagitar, could go for Sunsoaker, could go for Menelaya. Probably never Menelaya. But I think Magma Flow could be a really good call here, just to pick off this Solid Smog before it flips. Because, you know, what you're teed up for here is the Sparks of Revolution coming down and Solid Smog getting to flip with checking off the 3 damage clause. And then once Smog is flipped, the Amity cost of 2 mana to give +2 power to 2 creatures is pretty strong, but you can also just swing with everything to flip Sparks of Revolution, and that costs you less mana. So Mountain in play is unsurprising. It is going to be Magma Flow, kill Solid Smog. Just get that out of play before it becomes a problem. Super reasonable. With all the trouble that Solid Smog gave me, I think that is absolutely the correct call. That card just can't be allowed to live. Another lands drawn for PTM is really awkward. So Sparks of Revolution comes down. I think it's just got to be like reply to the call, Erupt here. Reply targeting Efimia, Erupt targeting Efimia. Gets you to a 3-power Efimia because reply gives it +1/+0. And then you have 2 2/1s. Two 2/2/1s. And Sparks of Revolution can choose either condition. I assume you fire off the 3 or more damage clause. So Mountain drawn off of the reply to the call. Oh my goodness, no. Oh, that's heartbreaking. So PTM utterly flooded here. Does get to chip in for 7. That is a lot of damage, but there's nothing to back it up. Goes for condition 1, 3 or more sources dealt damage. So accepting that the burn spell avenue is going to be how Sparks flips here. Boarding Tremors off the top for Chip. Opposite problems on opposite sides of the table here. Chip with 3 lands and a bunch of spells to try and kind of weave in here versus PTM 7 lands across the battlefield in hand. Fabricated Anomaly can smooth this over. Good to kind of just hold and see what happens here. Oh my god. Oh my god. And if PTM had gone for condition 2 on Sparks of Revolution, PTM could at least swing out with everything, flip Sparks, and if Efimia gets blocked, you just replace Efimia next turn. So yeah, PTM not choosing the 3 or more damage mode on Sparks is hurting here. Chip flips away a Crumbling Tower on the puzzle box to get a Mountain, so that is the 4th land drop needed. Could go Sagitar, Sunsoaker, could go Sunsoaker, Menelaya. Just really, really good position no matter how you cut it up, I think. You know, your opponent doing nothing on turn 4 seems a little fishy, but when you have a hand like PTM's, you kind of only get to do so much. What's remarkable about this too is PTM's on a 22 lands deck. Like, this is not super mathematically likely that PTM floods out this hard. So really unfortunate way for this final game to go. We see Sunsoaker actually get looted away with the puzzle box for electronic countermeasures. So I guess it's not going to be Sunsoaker Menelaya, but could be Sagittar Menelaya. Or it could just be Weftheart here. We don't know for sure. Actually, no, couldn't be Sunsoaker Menelaya. It couldn't be any combination of 2-drops because there's only one green source in play. So yeah, couldn't be Sagittar Menelaya, couldn't be Sunsoaker Menelaya or any of that. So might as well be Koyos or Weftheart, right? Weftheart just make a save token? Maybe even tuck it on program B so you can sort of dedicate your next turn towards doing something more meaningful rather than hoping you hit a good card to play. I mean, your curve does top out at 5, so you could just Weftheart save on A and then just hope that next turn if you flip a 5-drop, you find the land to make that 5-drop usable. Because your 6-drop, your 1/6-drop is in hand already. So we see a prolonged pause here. Chip is thinking for a long while. We'll kind of fast forward through it all. We do see Mountain Menelaya developed here for Fabricated Anomaly and Menelaya to get the counters. And then no other play. Not what I was expecting, but does get to hold up the Indestructible for Fabricated Anomaly at least. And 4 toughness, a lot harder for red to punch through than 3. Ironcliff Blaster, just not the draw you want to see here if you are PTM. Yeah, this is just all sorts of unfortunate. So for all of the complex choices that Chip has to make, PTM really does not have a whole lot to offer. And Chip gets the turn back. Blaster, nothing. Whew. This is really unfortunate. All right, Chip draws Rebuilding of Lundell. Oh no, that's going to spiral the board so far out of control. I imagine it's going to be Puzzle Box looting away Warden of Tremors here. Warden's just so much mana at this point. Like, you kind of just want stuff that plays to the board here. I don't think you can really plan to have Warden long term. No, gets rid of electronic countermeasures, finds a Masksmith. Rebuilding of Lundell? Yeah. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 permanents. 4 more lets all 3 get made. Grip Festivarium is a great draw here in the like awkward board state that we see currently. Can at least start funneling this mana in to be a 3/1 this turn, and then Mountain next turn makes it a 6/4. But 6/4 is not even that great against this board because, you know, Fabricated Anomaly, Menelaya double blocks, and then you just pay 1, keep the Anomaly up, and deal 4 between a 2/3 and a 2/2. Wow. Yeah, even full level Festivarium, just not that remarkable here. Chip makes the treasure, draws a Mountain. So could go for Warden of Tremors here. Could just run that out. I don't imagine you do, though. I think if you're in Chip's position, you just take things steady. You go like Sagittar, Masksmith, hold up 2 mana. Maybe you puzzle box away Masksmith. Maybe you puzzle box away Koyos. Because, you know, for all the awkwardness of PTM's draw, you know, this game's not over. Well, I mean, not unless you flip into Terminal Impact to kill off this Festivarium to just completely nullify anything your opponent has going on. So now it could be Mountain. Yeah, 1 mana terminal impact to the Festivarium, Mountain, Weftheart. Not even going for Weftheart still, just keeping Masksmith up. You're running out the mountain, right? No? Wow. Wow. Yeah, I guess just holding the mountain for Warden of Tremors so that way Rebuilding of Londale can put another treasure into play. Get you to 6 mana, and then you can go mountain off of Warden of Tremors. 6th land here for PTM. Just really, really rough draw. That's 10 lands total out of 22 in the top 16. Makes a treasure, draws Dryad of the Keen-Eyed, and then, yeah, this is going to be 6 mana, Warden of Tremors, Mountain as first land drop. PTM's own league promo, too. Oh, how rude. How rude can you get? So land drop finds Great Festivarium, Root Fossil, Harvest Time. Festivarium can be your second land this turn for Warden of Tremors. If you hit a green source, you can Harvest Time as well. So Festivarium hits Temple of Origins, Urban Jungle, Ardent Rise. Why is that? There we go. Oh man, Ardent Rise can even trigger Warden of Tremors twice. I think you gotta hold the Ardent Rise to trigger Warden Tremors twice next turn. But yeah, you could go like Shockin', Urban Jungle, Harvest Time, Root Fossil. Going for the Ardent Rise now. Okay, so Ardent Rise is gonna come in, sacrifice, chooses to do the fetch before Warden of Tremors trigger. Yep, Rise trigger first, clarified. Gotta be Forest. Yeah, finds the Forest to play tapped. Warden of Tremors is going to find Abominable Avalanche, Morbid Bloomer, Tough Nut. Man, Tough Nut here with Warden of Tremors is great. And then 3 more lands. Yeah, if I'm PTM, it's just like, all right, well, I had no card advantage, and now my opponent has a full grip under their Warden of Tremors. Cool. This is one of those situations where it's like, I think if you can swing playing a 6 mana card in the command zone, Warden of Tremors is just such a nuts card. But the problem really just comes down to 6 mana in the command zone is so much in the face of things like Efimia. You just don't have time to make it to 6 mana. But if you could play 6 drops, like I know I was really high on Skotha through a lot of the GP. And I think if I were to not have played Jack, I probably would have played Skotha. But Warden of Tremors here, just nuts card. Momentous Charge can let this Ironcliff Blaster kind of sneakily connect for 6. You swing the Ironcliff Blaster. I imagine the opponent just doesn't block, and then you could Momentous Charge the Blaster to... Actually, what if you swing all out? You lose, probably, almost certainly. But what if you swing all out? What if you swing all out and you have, let the blocks get declared, and then you Momentous Charge Efimia, Momentous Charge Efimia. You get a 6 power Efimia, 2 power on each of your tokens, and then 4 power on your Ironcliff Blaster. So if anything other than Warden is blocking Blaster, then Blaster kills it profitably. Efimia trades into Warden of Tremors if it's blocked. Trades into anything that blocks it with this line. And then, like, if Menelaya or Masksmith blocks a 1/1, that kills those as well. I think you're in hell either way, but, like, you're at 7 lands with 2 more in hand. You might as well go out swinging, right? Okay, PTM's just going to call it here. No need to take that line and draw this game out. PTM says, I've drawn 2 non-land cards this game. And that is correct. It's Ironcliff Blaster, Momentous Charge. That was quite an unfortunate final draw there. But Chipmunk securing the first ever 3-win streak in Revolution Grand Prix. June, July, and now August. I think we have found Chipmunk's happy place, and it is Errors in the Weft rotation. I guess the only thing I have left to say about that is let's see if Chip can go for the 4. let's see how next month shapes up. Phenomenal plays from both players. Really, really clean. Navigating through a lot of lines. Some kind of suspect play patterns. I'm not sure I would have discarded the things that Chipmunk discarded to Puzzle Box, but Chip has way more experience with this particular deck. PTM shipping Efimia to the graveyard instead of Command Zone. Just a bad habit you gotta break when you're playing Brawl, but it's easy to have that habit be developed from just playing a lot of 60 card, and PTM plays a lot of 60 card, if this League promo Warden of Tremors is any indication. So pretty understandable ways in which I'm not sure I necessarily agree with play patterns or choices like Efimia sitting in graveyard, but ultimately, both of these players fought really hard to get to this spot of the tournament. Well played to PTM to get all the way up to this finals match, and well done to Chipmunk for the third in a row and fourth in this World Qualifier season, World Qualifying year, GP win. Chipmunk already sitting on a really, really stellar GP conversion rate from not just entering the tournament to making top cut, but entering the tournament to winning the tournament. Like this is Chipmunk's 8th time making top cut and 4th time winning. So that's just kind of incredible to think about. So with all of that said, one last time, in the description below, you can check out Chipmunk's perspective on these games, on this match, to see what was going through her head. I know I'm going to have to after this, because I just am too darn curious. But yeah, this was a stellar match to watch here, even through some of the awkwardness of flooding out here with PTM. Just like some really cool things getting to happening in these matches. And that lethal in game 1 was, in fact, worthy of the hype. That was a really cool lethal. So both players getting to do some really sweet things in this matchup. And that wraps up Grand Prix Darkhand Enterprises. So, as always, if you are excited for the next rotation season, as much as I am anyways, though I don't know if that's possible, you can look forward to lots more Revolution coverage here on the channel. Be sure to give the channel a subscribe if you are really interested in seeing more of this format. And check out the link in the description below to the Custom Magic Discord server for all things Custom Magic, both Revolution and beyond. Also got links in the description below to resources for the... Sorry, I'm used to having this scripted. Links in the description below to all resources for the format, including the Revolution Compendium, where you can look at a curated list of cards recommended by the Revolution curators for inclusion in your decks, as well as the LackeyBot and Escape from Limbo search engines pulled together by the curator team and Cajun on the LackeyBot side, and our GP winner, DrChipmunk, on the side of Escape from Limbo. Really, really great resources to be able to help pull together your decks before you ever dive into a match. And if you want to dive into a match, again, check out that Discord link in the description below. Join the community. I would love to get some matches against any of you that are watching this. And we've got a very, very exciting new season of Revolution on the horizon. So with all of that said, thank you all so much for watching. Congratulations again to DrChipmunk, and I will see you all in the Revolution chat. Bye-bye.